We haven't talked in a while. I wanted to catch up. You've been busy. You got like 1 billion jobs. You're on television every single day. You're a big celebrity.
Stop.
We're late in the Leafs run here. We're in the dead of summer. You've had some time to process this. How are you feeling right now about the Leafs, just in terms of what appears to be yet another run-it-back season, another year with the core four, another year where it doesn't even look like they put the screws to anybody in terms of moving no-move clauses, another year where a star is going to be going? I feel like I'm leading the witness here. But, yeah, how are you feeling right now about the Leafs?
Well, you start that question by saying, you've had some time to process. But, time to process what?
Yeah.
There's a new coach. A couple of additions to the blue line that are fine, that are I like them, but they're not. I don't think those are groundbreaking. We're winning a Stanley Cup now additions. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot to process, which is, I guess, just it's underwhelming, right? And I guess if the core four is going to remain and we are going to run it back and it is going to be a lot of the same going into this season, then the only question that really matters is can a new coach, can Craig Berube, have a big enough impact to actually get this team over the hump in the playoffs? Because that's all that matters. I feel like I'm just living the same year over and over again when it comes to the Leafs, because we're going to have the same conversation. The regular season will be good. I think we all know that, especially with some of the teams in the division, I think, getting worse. But we always think that we know, and then we go into a season and a team comes out of nowhere and has success that we think is going to take a step back, or a team that we think is taking a step forward or is going to be better isn't. So all that matters is what we think about the Leafs roster. And right now, I don't look at that roster on paper and go, this is a team that's a bona fide Stanley Cup contender. And I still have people say to me sometimes, especially on Twitter, why is it always cup or bust with the Leafs? It should be about just getting out of the first round.
Always.
No, that was not the goal when Brendan Shanahan
You have people who say that
a million years ago. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Lower expectations. Expectations are too high. I've had people in hockey say expectations are too high for the Leafs, particularly last year. And maybe there's a case to be made for that. But I think if you're looking at it big picture and not just within the framing of 1 year, the expectations should be the Stanley Cup. That should be every team's expectations. But certainly for a team that has the caliber of talent up front that the Leafs have had for almost a decade now.
Yeah, no, I'm not even. I get to do this move for one. I'm not even going to dignify those people with a response. Like the idea that there's too much pressure on a team that hasn't won since 1967, that went in the tank for a couple of years and just decided to really try and rebuild. Like when you do a rebuild, and then especially when you pay high-end talent, high-end picks, a ton of money. I'm doing the response. Like, no, sorry. But yes, the expectation is that you're going to win championships. Like you want to win championships. The idea that anyone would ever be satisfied with a first-round exit, that's insane. That's like, you remember Giannis Antetokounmpo a couple of years ago when his team lost to Miami? He stood at the podium. He's like, is it a failure to make friends? And you were like, wait, what's happening here? Like, what are you talking about?
I did enjoy that speech. I won't lie.
Oh my God. You would. You love, it's like, I don't go on Facebook anymore. Like, I don't even know what my password is for it. Like, I can't get on there. But my understanding of what Facebook is now is just basically people who post, repost, like the kind of stuff that you would see in your mom's place, like shoot for the stars. If you miss, you'll hit the moon, or so, like
live, laugh, love.
Yeah, like it's kind of that. You're my live, laugh, love friend, where almost every day you post something that's like, the lion doesn't pay attention to the sheep. And I go, yeah, right. And like, let the haters weep. You love that stuff. Gary V, that stuff is like, that gets you going. You love it. You start every day with a cup of coffee and a Gary V quote.
Right now on the air.
Yeah.
We are going to fight right now on the air because, okay, I did at one point. I really was a Gary V stan at one point, but I am off that wagon.
Oh, you're off that drug? You needed harder drugs. You needed harder quote drugs. You're like, for years, I know. You would like go to conferences.
For years.
Yeah.
But I have lately been on a run of reposting some motivational speeches.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I can't debate
you
that.
love that stuff. You thrive with that stuff. That is actually working on you. That stuff I hear for a second and then I go, like, I forget it 2 seconds later. I was actually pissed because the one that I liked.
You know what?
Well, go ahead.
You're such a hater.
Yeah, I am.
You're such a hater.
I know.
Hating
Welcome to the show.
On people trying to feel good
Yeah.
and speeches and motivational things that make people feel good,
Yeah.
and you're hating on it. You're that guy now.
How long have you and I been friends?
Forever.
Yeah. When have I not been that?
You're right. You are who you are. You are who you are, and I am who I am. So you should just accept it.
I do, but that's why it's a good friendship.
am.
That's why it's a good friendship. But the idea that I've become a hater, how dare you? I've been hating since day one. I've always been a hater. I'm an original hater. This
isn't who I am at my core.
Yeah.
I've always been this way.
I've always been hating.
The Leafs. What's that?
I said I've always been hating. Anyways, going back to the Leafs.
Yeah, so you've always been hating, and I've always been attempting to inspire myself and others.
And be positive.
So whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine. And hopefully the Leafs can get out of their current lane because it ain't working. No. So something's got to give. And I just don't know that a coach, as much as I was, part of the train of Sheldon Keefe, needed to go a couple of years ago, I still don't know that a coach is enough to make such an impact that all of a sudden you go from being good to great. We've seen Craig Berube do that with the St. Louis Blues, but that was like a miracle, once in a lifetime, type of run. What I do like is that when he did take over the St. Louis Blues halfway through the season, was that he was unafraid in his decision making, and when he made decisions, he stuck to them, right? He rode Jordan Binnington. Obviously, once he started winning, that probably was a hard decision to make. But to lean on Jordan Binnington during that run, to make the decisions that he made and to stick with them, I like and respect. And I hope that changes the culture of the Leafs a little bit in terms of if Craig Berube is going to bench someone, he's going to bench them, not for a shift. He's not going to apologize for it 2 days later. He's not going to call the team soft and then walk it back. This is a man that's going to stick to his guns. And so hopefully that carries a lot of weight, at least in the beginning, for the roster and for the Leafs. But again, I don't know how far that goes in terms of doing better in the postseason. I still think the roster is flawed. And this Marner thing, I like Marner as a player, but I do think that they should trade him. And I know that they're in a tough spot because they've waited this long to make this type of move. Mm-hmm. But this is where you're at. Everyone knows your hand. Everyone knows the cards that you have. So you got to find a way to make the best deal that you can and then make the most of the roster space, whatever it is or whatever it looks like post-trade. I don't see how you go in again with the same core that just can't get it done together. Something's got to give.
No, I think it's wild. I do think there's reasons for optimism when it comes to some cultural stuff where you go, you're right. I do think Berube is a good coach, and I think that he is a powerful figure. I think he's at the very beginning of the run. But then you literally think about it, this is just not that era where I think a coach comes in and has that same level of pull. These guys are all making 10+ million at this point, right? William Nylander's getting his money. Austin Matthews getting his money. Even Mitch Marner, who's in a contract year, he's still going to get his money. I just don't know.
They're going to get their money, but have they ever been told, did Sheldon Keefe ever truly, do something or make a decision where he was telling Mitch Marner no in terms of the deployment on the – do you know what I mean? Yes, there's money. They're going to get their money.
Yeah, he benched him on that one West Coast trip and then basically walked it back
for
immediately.
A shift, though.
Yeah, well,
And wasn't it for one shift? I was
it was a couple minutes,
not even a real benching.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
45 seconds. Woo, what an impact. Oh, my God. I can't believe Mitch Marner had to sit for 45 seconds extra. Big deal. I'm so over that. Everyone brings that up. That was a nothing burger.
I get it.
It was nothing.
And
the fact that Keefe had to walk that back, maybe that wasn't Keefe. Maybe he was told by his superiors he had to go out and do what he did or stick up for them or whatever. I don't know. But that's a joke. There was a joke then. It's a joke now.
It's fine. But you know why he walked it back, right? Is I don't think it's a failing of his constitution. I'm with you. I was not a Sheldon Keefe defender. I didn't think this guy was doing a phenomenal job. I thought that he got out-coached multiple times in the postseason and that there was clearly enough of a track record to move on. And then, during an offseason, which was last offseason, where they really should have made some changes, including that was the time to trade Mitch Marner before the trade move
100%.
clicked in. That was the time to fire Sheldon Keefe early and get a new coach. But they ended up having the disaster class, which was they finally won a first round. They offered Kyle Dubas a contract extension. He overplayed his hand, and it became all this drama. Shanahan became the champion of the people for a minute because he got to play the pop line of, if you don't want to be here, get out. People couldn't stand Dubas. And then when the dust settled, you kind of went, oh, wait, Dubas, for all of his flaws, he was probably the guy that knew the most that this needed to have a change. He lost the power struggle, and Shanahan, in the wake of it, ended up just trying to consolidate his resources, consolidate his players, and it ended up with what we have today, which is, I'm not going to say a disaster, but something that isn't very palatable to fans. I don't think something that represents, an overly optimistic season that we have here. There's a lot for it. But just when it was sticking with the coach thing, I really like Berube. But the reason why Keefe walked that back is because things do get intense from social media, and that bothers these players. And so if stuff like that happens, if those guys are held, quote unquote, accountable publicly, the stuff that we can actually see, I'm not sure it's going to resonate with those guys. I think they hate that stuff because you've seen it before with Mitch Marner where he complains about the media and this is when times have been kind of fine. He'll bring that kind of stuff up. So to me, it's going to be a lot of the private things that Berube does, the way that he's going to try to build their trust, whether or not it's going to have a step forward. I don't think that these guys respond well at all to the stick. I think it's very much like new age players, new age workers, whatever. The discipline stuff, I don't think works as well.
Well, they just had that with Sheldon Keefe. So I guess we'll see if Craig Berube can do it differently behind the scenes to a point where they are able to shed some of that. I think Mitch Marner in particular is the most sensitive to it. And I think that,
no question.
I don't even mean that as a slight. I actually think Mitch Marner cares immensely about the success of the Toronto Maple Leafs to a point where it's almost a detriment to his own performance. I think he really, really cares, but it's to a fault. And so, we even just saw his charity golf tournament or whatever doing the media rounds. People weren't allowed to ask questions about the hockey team when they were interviewing him for promotional purposes for that. And you want it to be about the charity. I get that. But I've interviewed a lot of players in the offseason doing golf tournaments.
I was going to say, when has there ever been a charity tournament like that?
I've never been given hey, you can't ask any hockey questions.
His media wasn't even allowed to go. It was non-traditional media only.
Yeah, I don't want to pile on Mitch Marner for that decision or his camp making that decision, but to me, that is such a big part of the problem. It's I'm sorry that it's hard. I'm sorry that there's pressure. I know that it's not easy. I am a little tiny little ant compared to the level of criticism that Mitch Marner would have to deal with. But I don't like what I get on social media sometimes. But this is the hand that you've been dealt. It's a pretty effing good one when you consider the money you make, the fact that you are looked at, to use Mitch Marner's words, as a sort of god in the city that you play in. There's always going to be negatives that come with it. And you want to play here. You don't want to waive your your no move clause. You don't want to leave all this stuff. Okay, fine. If you're going to own that and you got that in your contract negotiations, that's all fair. But at least be man enough to answer for it. To be I'm going to use my power and use my tools that I've earned by being one of the best players in the league to stay where I want to stay and play in Toronto and not move until it's out of my hands. Then at least answer to it.
I totally agree.
To me, I just thought that was a Bush League move.
I completely agree. Listen, again, the easiest cop-out, and I think almost basically the lamest thing was to always be he just wants to focus on the charity. I was that'd be one thing if it was not a pattern of this over and over and over again. You're in one of the hottest off seasons ever that a player has had, and it's part of the reason why I've never understood. This is what I talk about when it comes to comfort and lifestyle is, this guy obviously is very comfortable in the city, likes to go to his local golf course, plays there, has his friends here, has his family here, doesn't want to move. But when it comes to the hockey, it's clear that this is not the best place for him anymore, right? It's not.
And here's the thing. Yeah. What a wasted opportunity, right, for Mitch Marner to, at this event, be asked about the situation, which is obviously very. It's a headline. It's going to get views. It's going to get read. Whatever. And
But no one's going to crush. Exactly. No one's going to crush him there at a charity event.
Well, what an opportunity to make up for the way you answered some of these questions at the exit interviews or whatever at the end of the season. What an opportunity to make up for that and to endear yourself to a fan base by telling them how much you care about them, about bringing them success, about what it actually means to you to play in Toronto. Because I don't think it's about being looked at as a god for Mitch Marner. I think that he sometimes crumbles under the pressure of a question when the season is over. But a good PR team to me would have said, Mitch, this is an awesome opportunity for you to actually make yourself a little relatable to this fan base with how much you care and how much you hate losing and how much you want to be part of the solution, and just speak from the heart about wanting to stay here and not wanting to leave. The amount of I don't want to say pressure he could have taken off of himself, but the way he could have endeared himself to the fan base was right there for him to have. And instead, they chose the opposite direction, which is don't say anything, don't even talk about it, which doesn't make you relatable to anybody.
Jackie, this is the same.
Anyway.
Like, again, I understand that we really pick apart this player and we pick apart the Leafs and we do a lot of conversation, but that's because people here really care. And again, it's at the very end of I think it's, I don't know, depending on what your thoughts are on whether he resigns, but it's coming to the close of the core four, you would assume. We're at this point where, yes, everything is highly scrutinized. He's wearing the brunt of it. He's probably wearing more than he should just in comparison to what Matthews is getting right now or 100%. What Nylander's getting. So, like, I understand those things. But I said kind of a similar thing when he had the exit interview and he said the comment about we're like gods here. That was a genuine moment where they were going to ask him, what does it mean to be a Maple Leaf to you? And all he needed to do was actually reach in his bag of authenticity and go, here's what it actually does. And instead he gave that weird God answer. Now he's doing the, like, I'm not going to talk to the media stuff. Buddy, the only way to get, what's your motivational quote here is the only way is through. What is that one? The only way forward is through. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's it.
I don't know.
If this guy would just, if I was advising, I'd be like, dude, if you just stare down the eye of the tiger here and go, I know there's going to be a ton of scrutiny, let it come. Like, so I just saw, I tried to watch the new season of that show, The Boys. You know that show? It's like the Amazon.
Yeah, I love that show. I haven't watched the new season yet, but I do like it. Yeah.
There's the main character. She got a ton of plastic surgery done, like on her face. And it like became a huge controversy because people were like, holy crap. Like she doesn't even look like the same person. And if you Google the side-by-sides, you're like, holy, it's pretty intense. And then what did she do? She just like went to Instagram and she said something like hate away or something. She posted a picture of her face and she was just like get it all out or some line like that. When I was Googling, I was like, damn, that's pretty fire. You know, like she just went, take your shots. I was like, that's kind of what you should do is say that you're not afraid of it by actually putting yourself out there in a vulnerable position, do a media round, talk about why you want to stay, talk about like open up about it. That's the way to ingratiate yourself with the fan base. The whole like, I'm going to hide thing. I'm not going to address anything. I'm going to speak in like very small segments whenever I'm forced to do any kind of media. I'm only going to do stuff that's completely controlled by me through using cool Instagram figures. Like, it's just so lame, and none of it resonates, and all of it is only going to make the situation worse. And that's the thing that I genuinely do not understand. I get it. His life here must be awesome. He must actually love living in Ontario. His camp obviously desperately wants him to be here. But I just look at it and go, man, for personal growth, you'd have two options. One is to do the only way is through approach and just stare it down and try to take the hometown discount and say you'll do anything to be here, or to just grow up and be willing to stake your positioning, move somewhere else, you know, like like the best thing for him this offseason would have been, hey, I'm willing to go to a bunch of different places. Like I know this doesn't work for you guys. Like I'm open to listening, and then not go anywhere, but just listen on trades, like open that door and see what happens, see what opportunities would have come up for you. I think that all of this has been handled so poorly. This season's going to be drama. And
the thing is,
I don't like it.
I'll say this too. Like, it's not all on Mitch Marner. Like, people out there,
of course it's not.
Need to realize
this is Brendan Shanahan's.
I was just talking about the way Mitch Marner and his camp have handled it. Like, it's not just him deciding how to play these things, right? Like, he's a multi-million-dollar athlete with a whole team around him.
He's 26 or 27 now. It's like you got to take control of the reins, bud.
And I'm not sitting here being like, it's easy to be Mitch Marner right now, because it's not. I don't envy the position at all. And again, like, I can't say this enough, because the second that you say anything critical about Mitch Marner, his sort of supporters will say that you're a hater. You don't. I think Mitch Marner's an incredible player. I think if he leaves or when he leaves, he's probably going to have an immense amount of success somewhere else, probably going to win a cup, and people are going to be like, they should never have got rid of him. But sometimes, I mean, people have been bringing up Nazem Kadri, right? Oh, well, he left and he fixed himself and then he won and he had this amazing year, the year that the Avs won the cup.
He was loved, though. He was that Wesley Snipes meme with the gun.
To bring up another, like, type of quote, was Kadri able to do that because of what he went through in Toronto, because the trade devastated him to his core to the point that he became a different person because he, like, grew through what he went through, to use an inspirational quote? Like, sometimes that is why you're able to find success, is because something like that happens to you and you're able to finally shake it off and go, okay, I need to change, or I need to just accept what this is and not care about it so much. I think if Mitch Marner actually just cared a little less, he would probably be doing himself a massive favor. Like, he needs a little bit of that, like, William Nylander swag of, he tells us he doesn't care a lot, Mitch Marner. He says it, but I don't know that he means it all the time. If he could actually care a little bit less, I think it would take an immense amount of the weight off of his shoulders, because he carries it. He does, whether he wants to admit it to us or not. Anyways, I can't keep going, but I did look up the quote that you were trying to say, and it is, the only way out is through, and it's from American poet Robert Frost. I Googled it.
Yeah. I am a Robert Frost guy, so I should have known that. That's a good one, and that is the only way out is through. Is the one. That is the one. That is the truth. Robert Frost nailed it. Jackie, post that one later. Put that in the Instagram story today.
Post it on Instagram and tag Mitch Marner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I don't have the balls.
Yeah, guess what? It's called instant block. You do that. That's an instant blockaroo. So you fire that one up.
Maybe a call from the Leafs. I don't know.
Yeah, that might end up being one. Okay, so speaking of the Leafs, I posted on Twitter after the England loss. I posted my top 10 loser franchises, and I just threw it out. I didn't even rank it. It was like from a gut. It took me 2 seconds. I didn't put any thought behind the list. It was just who popped in my brain first when I thought about losers, because England soccer, they're incredible chokers, right? They get there and then they lose in embarrassing fashion and in crushing fashion. And I put the Leafs there. I don't have the list in front of me, but I'll get it up. But it's like Leafs, England soccer. I put the Detroit Lions, even though I think that they're trending in a direction where they're gonna drop off that list. I put the Buffalo Bills, the Charlotte Hornets, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets. I did put Jets, and it was funny because a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans thought it was about them, and I was like, I mean, maybe you're kind of. It's not like you've done too much. You're kind of losers too. You got embarrassed again this year, and then a few other franchises that I fired on that I fired the list there. Here's the question I have for you, though, because now I've actually thought about it, and I wanted to bring this to you. People all were coming at me with who their favorite loser franchises were, and I went, no. It's got to be, to me, it's a combination of the things that make a loser franchise are, one, you're just never there. Like, you're a perennial loser. Like, that's why the Detroit Lions are there. It's awesome that they were amazing last season. I'm on the Lions bandwagon. I'm going to go to a game there this year. I love that team. They're young. They're hungry. They've got a ton of blue chip guys. They're trending in the right direction. But forever, they've just not even been there. They don't even make the playoffs. They're irrelevant. It's the same thing with the Charlotte Hornets. They're not even there. They're so off the map. Seattle Mariners, never there. So far off the map. That was another one of losers. But what do you think is the greater defining loser trait? To never be there, to be like what the Lions were, or to be like the Bills, where you get there, and I know they went a long time without even making the playoffs. They had a huge streak. But, when you're the team that everyone thinks is going to lose, like when you're the Leafs, for example, recently, where they're the ultimate loser because they haven't won since 67. They haven't won since there were 6 teams, and they choke in the big spots. But what is your, defining loser characteristic? Never being there, or feeling like they're going to lose and then they always lose when they do get there, like England soccer?
I think getting there and always losing is worse.
Yeah.
Because when you never make it there, you lack relevance just Hornets. In general. But like the Maple Leafs, the reason they are just like, what is the number one favorite thing for non-Leafs fans to do is make fun of the Leafs. And people will hate that I'm saying that, but it's fact.
No,
it's
the Leafs are the number one losers. The Leafs are the numver one losers. They're the GOAT losers. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah.
Number one team joked about in hockey forever, and they've earned it.
And everybody knows about the Leafs in other sports. Like if you go down to Texas, right? And you're like, do you know about the Leafs? And they go, oh, yeah, losers, right? Like, that's their whole thing. Don't y'all lose?
Their transcends the sport. It there are people that truly know nothing about hockey, but they know that you make fun of the Leafs.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, the Toronto Maple Leafs, ain't they always losing? It's like, yeah, they are. They're always losing.
I love that we went Southern America for
well, that's who doesn't know. Like, you go below a certain parallel and hockey disappears outside of like the people who are in the arena and mostly went there for like air conditioning.
Yes, but
your fans.
I assume that stop it. Yeah. I assume that this is your viewpoint as well, because if you're just never making the playoffs, then like you probably haven't had a good enough team to get there. Whereas the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially in this era, have been glorified as this like powerhouse offensive team, and then they get to the playoffs and suddenly they can't score goals anymore. Like, it's embarrassing. Yeah. It's embarrassing because you're on the stage and failing. But for teams that never make it, you're not on the big stage. You're just failing in your market, which still sucks, but it's not the same. It's not the same level.
Yeah, so I probably should have put the Cowboys on my list then, because they won in '96, I think, is their last Super Bowl. Which to me, in my brain, as a millennial, is not like that long ago, even though it's shockingly long ago. It's so far back.
No, still point it out.
It's the worst how far back it is. Like, Mike Jose, were you born in '96? Yeah, that's disgusting. Leave. But they get there and they lose every single time, and they always do it in embarrassing fashion because they get a ton of hype. But that being said, there's also, I think, England, the Leafs, and why the Cowboys always, I think, get lumped in with them is because they have the main character syndrome, where media speaks about them the most, right? When England soccer's in the Euro, they get the most coverage. Leafs get the most coverage. Cowboys get the most coverage. So everything is always perceived through their lens. So people enjoy when they lose even more so, because other fan bases know what's going on with them more than, I would say, the average run-of-the-mill fan knows about, like my Seahawks. Nobody knows what's going on with the Seahawks, 100%. But they know what's going on with the Cowboys. So there's like an added layer of that I don't know how to remove. But the Leafs they check all the boxes. They were relevant for a long time. You know, they've gone long stretches. They've gone incredibly long stretches without winning even playoff series. They suck. That's why I had a segment called Losers Like the Leafs, is because you can relate every losing franchise to the Leafs because they are the creme de la creme since the Chicago Cubs won one. Okay. I
did not see that segment. I want to go watch it though.
Oh, I did it for a couple of years. It was just like whenever people would be like the 76ers, for example, they would go, "Oh, the 76ers, they're falling apart. They're losers." And I would go, "They're losers like the Leafs." Whenever a team and Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. I didn't mean to cut you off. No, but you do raise a really valid point about the main character thing. Yeah. Because the Leafs, like they're so popular, not just with hockey fans in terms of having a large fan base, but the media hypes them up so much every single year. No matter what their roster looks like, they're getting the most coverage. A lot of times, an inflated, like players and what they're capable of are inflated. It's like there's a reason that like the most popular people are also like in high school, right? Like the most popular people are also like the most hated, like secretly, because you're like, why is this person so popular? And the Leafs, like they look really good, hated. But there's like nothing else there, you know?
Yeah, I get it. No, anyway. I completely agree. Like I think that is definitely a big part of why they are hated. Although I was mentioning to you, I saw a poll. The account JFresh is a great Twitter account and hockey Twitter.
Yes, I did see the poll.
He posted that.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that it's not a good representation. I'm sorry to JFresh. I think he does great work, but I don't think the polls are very.
I love JFresh.
Yeah, but I think that poll sucks. Yeah, no offense, JFresh.
Well, the reason is I don't want to speak incorrectly here, but I'm pretty sure when I read it, it said something about how the way they do that poll is they just randomly present two teams to a person. Like they'll go Vegas or Montreal, who would you rather cheer for? And then they answer it, and I'm like, well, that's an incredibly flawed way to do the poll. If you ask me.
No, I don't want to.
You're giving a person two teams to pick from, and they're picking who they would cheer for.
Yeah, no, the Leafs are the most hated in Canada by far. Like, and I've said this many, many, many times before, but that's the way I like it, because if the Leafs were ever to do something, I want the nation in a fear vice grip where they're like, oh my God, no, we're going to hear about this forever. Like, I only have a couple people in my life that are English soccer fans, like only a couple. And I was so happy when they lost. I was thrilled because I never want to hear them be happy. Part of it too is I don't want the Leafs to be just kind of standing alone. Like England is basically the only one that you can really say is like the Leafs, even though people will say, oh, they get to the finals. Shut up. You never win. You're England. Like, it's not the same. Congrats. You beat Macedonia. Like, I don't care. That if the Leafs got to play Macedonia equivalent, they would be in the finals a lot too. Like, it's a different ball game. I don't ever want to hear about England fans who go, we get to the finals. They're the only losers like us. The only ones we used to have were the Blackhawks, and they won one, and then the Cubs, and the Cubs got off the schneid. And now the Leafs are at the top of the loser pile when it comes to franchises. They're worse than the Knicks. They're worse than the Sixers. They're just like, they're the worst. They're worse than the Cowboys. You know what a Leaf fan would do to have had a Stanley Cup in 96? Like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In hockey, Canadian hockey terms, that's yesterday. That's last week. So no, would have killed for that. All right. We got to go here. We only got a couple minutes. I got to get your advice on this mic thing. I want to talk about you missing a flight because that's just, that gives me anxiety when you text me about it. But Mike had a friend. He's explained it to me very shortly. I told him to keep it for the show. You had a friend show up at a bar who missed his flight, and he asked you if he could crash, and you said no because your girlfriend hates him?
That's exactly the story. Yes.
You're the worst.
That is exactly the story.
That's like...
Well, there's a lot to be considered here. Why does the girlfriend hate the friend? I don't know if we can get into this on the radio.
The only way that this would be acceptable is if they slept together.
No. He's a bit much.
So what?
He's just
your
over
friend.
the top.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
I hung out with him all day.
He's a bit much, and you hung out with him all day. Where was he going to stay? Did he have other friends in the city?
I got him another friend to come let him crash there. So I did help out. I think it makes it worse that I'd crashed at his place in New York just a couple weeks ago for a few days.
Wow, man. You have no character.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
It sounds like an unbalanced friendship to me.
Yeah.
It sounds like one person is taking more than they're giving.
I was going to say, I think that is, of all the codes that there are in friendship, a friend who gets stranded in a city and asks you to stay, like that, it doesn't matter what's going on you could have other people staying at your place. You're basically come from away. You got to let people stay in the gym.
He went through a breakup like a year ago, and he slept on my couch for like 2 weeks. So
what?
I have put him up before.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He was in a time of need. Like Jackie, time of need, friend supersedes everything. Like, I'm sure your husband has a friend who you hate. And I'm sure there's one. Picture that guy in your mind's eye, and he needs a place to stay because he's stranded. Like, you would never deny that.
No, I've actually been in this exact situation.
Yeah, okay. With the hated friend.
And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't
No one likes
like it.
No one likes it. I'm not saying I like it.
But I allowed it.
Yeah.
I do have one other follow question. Did you ask your girlfriend, or did you just assume that she would be okay with it?
I was at the bar with her.
Question.
I was with her, and
Okay,
I gave her a look, and it was clearly like I had to stop. Like I wasn't allowed. I would have liked it. It would have been fine for me.
You two belong in a trial. You should be going to the Hague. This is it's war crime tribunals.
All I'm going to say is bad karma points right there.
Yeah, it really is.
Bad karma points.
It was, and he was pretty upset.
Yeah, of course. Who denies that? Like that is the ultimate. You cannot deny.
I felt bad.
That is. I honestly, I cannot think of anything that is a more automatic. Obviously, you have to say yes.
Listen, if I couldn't get him another place, I would have tried very hard.
Oh, you would have tried really hard. See, you couldn't even say I would have let him stay there. That's outrageous. Anyways, that's enough of you. We got to go. Jackie, thanks as always for making time for the show. Thanks for weighing in on that. I needed a woman's perspective as well on that because I was like, wait, is this just like, no. And you agree. So yeah, Mike to jail. Jackie Redmond, Jackie Redmond Show, WWE, NHL Network, all the places. Thanks for making time.
Hey, you guys are the best. Thanks for having me. Bye.
See you, Jackie.